So part of a conversation around transformation and change is how you know that you've reached a tipping point, the point at which change becomes inevitable. You've created enough momentum that now you can really see that it'll be very difficult for the change to be stopped. So what is the point at which you have created that momentum? And that point where change becomes inevitable and becomes easy, the more moves you make, the more momentum you gather, we can actually refer to that as the tipping point. And so, when is the tipping point around change? I just thought I'd share with you some research that's been published recently around that topic. So, this is a really interesting article that's been published in Yes Magazine. So you can go check it out. It's really about how to make social change, but I think it's also relevant to how we drive transformation and change inside large organizations. So, historically, economists have thought that if you're going to drive social change or drive transformation, this change becomes inevitable when you get to 50% or 51%, over 50%, right? So you get to 51%, 52%, 53%. That's the tipping point where change becomes inevitable. But actually, recent research by social scientist Damon Centola shows that you don't have to get to 50, 51, 52%. 25% is enough. Like when you get to 25% of a population embracing an idea or a group supporting an idea, you actually start to get towards the tipping point. And this is really interesting for folks like us that work inside transformation or innovation, which is we often think that we have to change every heart or change every person or turn around a large proportion of the organization. But actually, we don't actually need to do that. And this is kind of connected to research that was done by Rosabat Moss-Kanter, where she found that actually when women are small minorities inside organizations, they could be subject to harassment and discrimination. But actually, when that number starts to grow, when women start to occupy 20 to 30% of leadership roles or 20 to 35% of leadership roles, that starts to shift the work culture, right? And so you can see that you don't need to be at 50% to start, changing a culture. The tipping point is actually reached much sooner. Now, of course, you got to leverage the tipping point to keep going, but it's important that we understand that you get to the tipping point much sooner than we would typically expect. And some of this work is also connected to the work on, the technology adoption cycle that talks about innovators, early adopters, and the early majority. And you actually find that you don't even have to get all of the early majority to get to the tipping point, right? You only need to move from the early adopters, cross the chasm into a significant enough proportion of the early majority, maybe 50% of the early majority, to get to that tipping point. And so I would encourage everyone who's working on transformation, anyone who's working on innovation, to start to track how much support they have, how many champions they have, what proportion of the company is actually backing their idea, and start to see if they can sense and feel that momentum starting to actually support their idea. So that's really something I just wanted to share with you. Some thinking around what does it feel like to get to the tipping point, and what do you actually really need in terms of buy-in and the proportion of people that buy in to get to that tipping point. Again, wishing you the very best in all the work that you're doing. Thank you.